Hello back again. In today's video, we are going to take a look at a real case study related to a distribution of a massive consumption product. So we are going to assess the current distribution policy that the company has put in place. We will also identify or calculate the economic order quantity. So this is a very simple exercise. We know for sure that if we were to bring more variables, this will be more interesting. But nevertheless, the goal behind this simple exercise is to get to understand how we can approach this kind of problems and how we can assess our logistics distribution both in terms of costs and quality of service. So here we have a large-scale distribution company that distributes a maintenance type of products in 30 hypermarkets and 200 supermarkets from a central warehouse C. The central warehouse C is replenished by the supplier F. And for the management rules, economic and technical inputs, we know, for example, that for the store management, we are following a fixed periodicity policy. So for the hypermarket, we have half of a month, whereas for the supermarket, we have the whole month with a replenishment level R. In this case, the lead time is negligible, and we can consider that the customer demand is known, regular, over the observed period, and that there is no need to build up a safety stock to avoid shortages. And for the warehouse management, so the supplier's delivery time being 1 week, the warehouse places an order for Q units when its stock level reaches the threshold S, the threshold S being the level of inventory which triggers an action for replenishment. And we will also assume that the demand of all the stores expressed at the central level is known, regular, and uniform over the observed period. Now for the economic data, the cost price per item is 1.3 euro. The cost of processing an order from a warehouse to supplier, it is 150 euro. From store to the warehouse, it is negligible. And from the hypermarket to supplier, it is 45 euro. The holding cost is 24% of the unit cost per year, which reflects, of course, the high risk of product obsolescence. The average cost of transport from warehouse to store is 20 euro per pallet. A delivery by the supplier for a full truck is free of charge, and the cost of handling a pallet in the warehouse is 6 euro, and that includes the unloading, the put away, and the loading of the truck. And finally, for the physical data, we have one pallet equal to 250 items. The capacity of one truck is 30 pallets, and the level of demand is 2,000 items per month for a hypermarket and 250 items per month for a supermarket. So now let's jump right to Microsoft Excel to make the calculations more easy. So here, the first thing that we need to compute is the average cost of inventory management for stores per month, and also determine what would be our replenishment level. Okay, so here I have copied, I have inserted some element that we have seen previously. So we know, for example, that we have 30 hypermarkets with a monthly demand of 2,000 items, and the hypermarkets and are following a calendar periodicity of 0.5, which is a half of a month. Whereas for the supermarket, we have 200 stores and with a monthly demand of 250 items, and they are following a periodicity of 1 month. Okay, So the three elements that we need to calculate is the replenishment level, the cost per month per store, and then the total cost per month. Okay, so in order to calculate the replenishment level, we are going to multiply the monthly demand of the hypermarket, which is 2,000 items, times the periodicity of 0.5, and that will give us 1,000 items. And that means that once our inventories level reaches 1,000 items, we are going to go for a replenishment. Okay. For the cost per month per store, it is so here, since we are looking for an average cost of inventory, we are going to take that replenishment level quantity, which is 1,000, divided by 2 times our holding cost. And our holding cost is going to be 1.30, which is the cost per item, multiplied by the 2%, which is the monthly holding cost. And that will give us 13 euros, okay? And finally, for the total cost, it is going to be simply the cost per month per store times the number of hypermarkets, which is 30, and that will give us 390 euro per month. Okay, so the same applies for this for the supermarket. We are going simply to duplicate the same calculations. So for the supermarket, for the replenishment level, it is the monthly demand multiplied by the periodicity, which is 1, and then for the cost per month per store, it is equal to 250 divided by 2 times our holding cost, which is the cost per item, 1.30 euro, times our monthly holding cost, which will give us 3.25 euro. And once again, for the total cost, it is simply going to be the cost per month per store multiplied by the number of supermarkets that we have, which is 200 stores, and that will give us 650 euro. So here we have a total cost per month of 1,040 euro for all the 230 stores that we need, in which we are basically storing our goods, for a total monthly demand of 110,000 items. And this 110,000 items is simply the sum product of the number of stores multiplied by the monthly demand. Coming now to the second part, we would like to know what would be the level S, which is the threshold that triggers a replenishment, and what is the economic order quantity that we need to choose, knowing that we want to order full tracks while minimizing our procurement costs. Okay, so here once again I have listed some elements that we have seen previously. We know, for example, that for a track it has a capacity of 30 pallets. In terms of items, it has a capacity of 7,500 items. We know that our ordering costs is 150 euro, and that we have a global demand of 110,000 items per month. Okay, so in order to determine what would be our S, which is our threshold, since we know that the lead time demand is 1 week, so we are simply going, and since we are talking about a monthly demand here, we are going simply to divide the global demand by 4, because we have 4 weeks, and that will give us 27,500 items. So here, once we reach a level of 27,500 items, we are going to proceed for a replenishment. Now for the economic order quantity, the formula is simply the square root of 2 times the demand, the monthly demand, times the ordering costs divided by the holding cost. Okay, so let's calculate the first part of the equation. So here we are going to put 2 times the monthly demand, which is 110,000 items, times 150, which is our ordering costs. And for the second part, we have simply to put our holding costs, which is 1.3 times our monthly holding cost, which is 2%. And here, let's plug our equation with the square root formula. So here we have the first part of the equation divided simply by the second part, and that will give us a quantity of 35,627 items that we need to order in order to optimize our logistics costs or our inventory costs. Okay. And here is a simple trick for us to check if this economic order quantity represents our optimal choice. We need to calculate the total annual ordering costs and the total annual holding cost. So in order to calculate the total annual ordering costs, it is going to be the monthly demand, which is 110,000 items, divided by the economic order quantity times our ordering costs. And here we have 463 items. Okay, let's calculate now the annual holding cost, and our total annual holding cost will be the economic order quantity divided by our holding cost times 2. So I'm going to insert 2 times our holding cost, which is 1.30 times 2%. You see here that we have the same results. So we have for the annual ordering costs, we have 463, and the same for the annual holding cost. So here we can say that the economic order quantity represents an optimal choice for our okay, and now that we have computed our economic order quantity, we need to know what would be the number of trucks that we will need for our distribution policy. So in order to know the number of trucks, we are going simply to divide the economic order quantity by the truck capacity in terms of items. And that will give us 4.75 trucks. So here this number will leaves us with 2 choices. I mean, either we go with 4 trucks or 5 trucks. So let's assess. So let's delve more. So let's analyze furthermore these 2 solutions in order to understand what would be the optimal choice. I mean, either we go with 4 trucks or 5 trucks. So here I have listed some elements, some costs element involved in these calculations. So here for the 4 trucks, the quantity would be simply 4 times the truck capacity in terms of items. So for trucks, we will have 30,000 items. So for the ordering costs related to 4 trucks, we are going to take the monthly demand, which is 110,000 items, multiplied by our ordering costs, divided by the economic order quantity related to 4 trucks, which is 30,000 items, and that will give us 550 euro. And for the holding costs, we are going to take the economic order quantity of 4 trucks divided by 2 times our holding costs, which is 1.30 times the 2%. And that will give us 390 euro. So we are going to duplicate the same calculations for the 5-track solution. So for the 5 tracks option, for the ordering costs, it is equal to the monthly demand times our ordering costs divided by the economic order quantity related to the 5 tracks. And for the holding costs, it is the quantity related to 5 tracks divided by 2 multiplied by our holding costs, which is 1.30 times the 2%. So here we can see clearly that the optimal solution would be the 5 tracks, since the total costs related to 5 tracks is 927 euro versus 940 euro for the 4 tracks option. Okay, now that we have computed our average cost of inventory management for all the stores that we are running, for the 30 hypermarkets and the 200 supermarkets, and we come up with the with a monthly total cost of 1,040 euro. And we have also identified the optimal solutions in terms of economic order quantity, but also in terms of the number of tracks that we are going to need, both in terms of ordering costs and holding cost. And we have said that we need to go for 5 tracks instead of 4 tracks for a quantity of 37,500 items. Now it is time to go through all the cost items involved in this distribution model. Okay, so we are going to start by the inbound transport from the suppliers, which means from the suppliers F to our central warehouse C. Then the transport, then the transshipment cost, related to the unloading, to the handling of the pallets within our warehouse C. Then the stock plus the procurement, the transport to stores, to our supermarkets and hypermarkets, and then finally the store's inventories cost for both the hypermarkets and the supermarkets. So here for the first cost item related to the inbound transport from the suppliers F to our central warehouse C, since it has been said that this transport is considered as a free of charge, so we have assumed that the logistics manager has negotiated with the suppliers that if there will be full trucks, then this cost element is not going to be billed to the company. So here we put basically 0, since we are talking about full truck, and since also we are talking about Franco shipments. Okay. Now for the transshipment cost. Here, basically, we are going to take the number of pallets times the transshipment cost, which is 6 euro. So in order to do that, we are going to take the global monthly demand, which is 110,000, divided by the 250 items that we have seen previously, that a pallet can have up to 250 50 items. So we are going to divide 110,000 items by 250. We are going to put this in brackets just to make the calculations more reliable, and then we are going to multiply it by the 6 euro of the transshipment related to the transshipment cost, and that will give us 2,640. Okay. Now for the stock plus the procurement, we are going to take the the quantity related to the 5 trucks option, which is 37,500 items, times our holding cost, which is 1.30 times the monthly holding cost, and that will give us 975 euro. For the transport to stores, it is the total number of pallets that we are going to ship basically from our warehouse C to our different stores, which means the hypermarkets and the supermarkets. So here we are going to once again to divide the 110,000 items by the number of items that we will find in one pallet, so we can get the number of pallets that we will need to ship or to handle, times the 20 euro per pallet that we are charging to the supermarkets and the hypermarkets for them to be delivered. And that will give us 8,800, okay? And now finally for the store's inventories, we have already calculated this one. We are going to simply to copy the total cost per month that we have already calculated here. And that will give us a total monthly cost of 13,455. Okay, I'm going to delete this K euro, so we can have some consistency in here. So, and that's it. So here we can understand that this whole distribution model will cost us approximately, I would say, 13,455 euro per month. Okay, and that includes all the costs involved in our supply chain model. Okay, from the inbound transport from our suppliers F to the average monthly cost for related to our inventories. Now heading to the last part of our supply chain problem, where things will get more interesting, because we are asked to assess a new distribution policy where the hypermarkets will be delivered directly by the supplier instead of going through our central warehouse C. So here basically the logistics director would like to have the hypermarkets delivered directly by the supplier, who would charge 22 euro per pallet for transport, and we are required to assess the quality of additional gains and cost items compared to the previous distribution policy, knowing that the hypermarket managers do not want to change their type of procurement policy, which means that they want to stick with the same calendar procurement policy, which means basically that they will replenish their inventories twice per month. If we go back to the first part, where we have done the calculation to determine what would be our average cost of inventory management, we can see here that the hypermarkets are following a periodicity of 0.5, which means that once again that on average they are going to replenish their inventories twice per month. So here I have done a simple table in which you can see the same cost items that we have calculated previously in the third part, where we can see the overall monthly management costs of the procurement and distribution system. And on the other side, we are going to calculate or to compute the other cost items related to the new distribution policy. And first of all, let's take a look at these flow charts, so we can see what are the main differences between the current distribution policy and the new distribution policy. So in the current distribution policy, we can see here that the supplier is delivering directly the warehouse. So we are basically consolidating the goods in the warehouse, and then we deliver our two types of stores. We are delivering first the supermarkets with 200 pallets, and then the hypermarkets with 240 pallets. Whereas in the new distribution policy that the director of logistics is asking us to assess and to evaluate, here we will have the supplier delivering only the warehouse, only 200 pallets as a volume to the warehouse, and then the warehouse will get only to deliver the supermarkets with the same volume, whereas the hypermarkets, they are going to be delivered directly by the supplier. Okay, so let's begin our calculations. So here we have been told that if the supplier is going to deliver the hypermarkets directly, he is going to charge 22 euro per pallet for the transport. Okay, so here the calculations are easy. So we are going to so for the inbound transport from the supplier to the hypermarket, it is going to be 240 times. This is the volume. It is 240 pallets times the 22 euro, and that will give us 5,280 euro. Now for the transshipment cost, we can see here that we are left with only 200 pallets. If we were delivering 440 pallets in the first distribution policy to the warehouse, now we are left with only 200 pallets. So this is why we are going to calculate this the transshipment cost based on the 200 pallets that we need to handle within the warehouse, within the central warehouse C. Okay, so here we have 200 pallets times 6, and that will give us 1,200 euro. Now for the stock and procurement, we can see here that we have a quantity of 22,500 items, and this is related to the adjustment that we have done for our economic order quantity. Okay, once again we are left only with only 200 pallets that goes through our central warehouse C. So we are going to do the same calculations that we have done previously for the economic order quantity, just for you to see how we have calculated this 22,500 items. So basically we have took the quantity that we are supposed to deliver to the supermarkets, and that goes also through the warehouse, which is 50,000 items, times. And here what I am doing is that I am calculating the first part of the economic order quantity equation, times 2 times our ordering cost, which is 150 euro. For the second part of the equation, it is going to be the same. So it is basically our holding cost, and that would be 2% times the cost per unit, which is 1.30. So here let's insert the square root formula once again. So here we have the first part of the equation divided by the second part, and that will give us 24,019 items. So let's divide it by the capacity of the truck in terms of items, which is 7,500, to know what is the number of trucks that we are going to need. So it is 24,019 divided by 7,500, and that will give us 3 trucks. That will give us 3.20 trucks. Now that we have identified the number of trucks that we will need for this new adjusted economic order quantity, which is 22,500 items, let's go back to see what are the order costs and holding costs for this 3 trucks option. So here basically I have duplicated the same calculations that we have done for the 4 trucks and the 5 trucks options. Here we can see that for the ordering costs, we have 333 euro, and for the holding cost it is 292 euros. Okay, it is 292. Sorry. And the only difference here is that for the calculations we have inserted not the global demand of 110,000 items, but the 50,000 items that are related to the supermarkets, because we are basically going to keep only the supermarkets transiting via the warehouse. Okay, so here as we can see, the total cost related to the 3 trucks option is 625 euro. So this is what we are going to copy here for the stock plus procurement cost. For the transport to stores, once again we are left with only 200 pallets, which means that we will put 200 pallets times 20 euros, and that will give us 4,000, which is the half of the cost of the previous distribution policy. Now for the store's inventories, so it is the same. It is basically the same, since we are always storing the same goods and the same volumes in the same stores types, in the supermarkets, but also in the hypermarkets. And now for the procurement from the suppliers to the hypermarkets, we have been told that our ordering costs is 45 euro. And basically the frequency of replenishment, since we know that we have 30 hypermarkets, and that the periodicity or the calendar procurement periodicity followed by the hypermarkets is 0.5, which is twice per month. So we are going to put 2 times the number of hypermarkets that we have, which is 30, and that will give us 60. So for our calculations, basically we are simply going to put 60 times 22 45 euros, sorry, and that will give us 2,700 euros, okay, for the procurement. So here what we can see clearly is that the overall cost of the new distribution policy is not really at the favor of our supply chain cost efficiency. The overall cost of the new distribution policy is 14,800, whereas for the current distribution policy is 13,455 euro. And of course, we are making some savings, especially in terms of transshipment cost, but also in the stock procurement. We are also making a huge savings in terms of transport to stores, and this has to do with the volume that has decreased, because basically from the warehouse we will get only 200 pallets transiting from via the warehouse instead of having 440 pallets. But nevertheless, some of other aspects can make us more inclined to choose this new distribution model, such as, for example, improving the responsiveness between the supplier and the hypermarkets. Since now in the new distribution policy, the supplier will deliver directly the hypermarkets without going through the warehouse. You will have also the lead time improved, since once again the supplier is delivering directly the hypermarkets. We will also be able to reduce the warehouse space. And by reducing the warehouse space, that means also that our handling costs will be also decreased and improved, and but only in one condition, and that is our rates that we have negotiated with our carriers remain the same. Okay, but nevertheless, what we should know and what we should keep in mind is that approximately all the companies that are operating in large scale distribution are only using are consolidating all their goods and all their flows. At least they are trying to consolidate all their flows in one warehouse, and then from that warehouse they are delivering to their stores or to their clients. This is the end of the video. Thank you so much, and see you soon.